Can you hear me now? Am I good? I haven't had these issues in a while. I'm not sure what's going on. I do know we had a power outage earlier, but I'm literally 8 feet from the wireless router here. All right, perfect. Gamecock Chuck says I'm perfect. Thank you so much. Now we can get back to sports. But hey, man, at least I almost didn't crash a car earlier like Danny Cannell did. I'll get to that in a little bit. Y'all stay tuned for that one. All right, Pinsman says I'm a lot better. All right, Mark, perfect, beautiful. Y'all are awesome. I don't care what no one says about any of you guys. I got your back. I got your back. Thanks for looking out. Hopefully y'all can hear me better now. But anyways, Houston, I don't know if y'all heard that. They did manage to force the overtime. I thought it was game over. It's now a second overtime. Houston is up 80-79, 4:30 to go. As I mentioned, we've got Arkansas, Oklahoma, Auburn, and Tennessee. And I just find myself way more intrigued by college basketball over NBA. Listen, I used to love LeBron. I could literally watch every game that he played 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I could have watched every game that Steph Curry and LeBron James played. Now I'm just kind of over it. I mean, they were supposed to pass the torch to guys like Zion Williamson and Ja Morant. And it just seems as though the NBA has failed completely to market their guys. And see, I was a LeBron fan, Chuck, only because he was 2 years ahead of me in high school. So he was the big thing when I was in high school. And then he actually was a number one pick who came out and did very well. So I am a bit of a LeBron fan. I've been to see him in person. That was one of my Christmas gifts. I went and saw LeBron in person in Charlotte with my wife. That was our first anniversary together, our first Christmas together as husband and wife. And that was my Christmas gift. I loved LeBron. Pre all the whining, pre all the facilitating's always been there as far as getting the roster to be what he wants it to be. But even now, though, y'all, I can't force myself to watch the NBA. But these slated games that we saw today in college basketball, this Houston and Kansas game, the Texas 22-point comeback, the 13-3 run that the Gamecock men's basketball team went on to force overtime while never leading the game. And so, yeah, we got tangled up there with technical difficulties, but we're going to move right into the Gamecock men's basketball. And this is why I prefer college basketball. It's just better. It's just better. Mark says things like load management, killing the game. You never know if your stars will play. I mean, luckily we didn't catch LeBron on a back-to-back when we went to go see him. Oh, I would have been pissed. I would have been mad. Oh, I would have been so mad if we would have went up to Charlotte, hotel room, tickets, concessions, the whole nine. LeBron didn't play. Man, you best be out your mind. You think I wasn't going to be mad. Look, y'all, I got my co-host tonight here too, Willow. She's over here. I don't know what she's doing. But anyways, thank you guys for bearing with me. College basketball over the NBA. Anybody else got any more comments on that? Send them in. I love to hear your thoughts. That's a good one there, Mark. Load management definitely has killed it. But right into Gamecock men's basketball. Have y'all seen how many turnovers they've had the last 4 games? Had another 19 today. By my last count, it was 18, but I looked it up. It was 19 turnovers. And then, not only the turnovers, can you count how many easy layups these dudes miss? Or just bad shots that they take? At this point, I really don't know how they can fix the issue. To me, it seems like they're playing with a women's basketball in practice, and when they get in the game, they don't know how to shoot a men's basketball. We have heard that happen before in a game for women's. So is that what's happening with these guys? Because it looks like the whole team has the yips almost. And I hate to say that. They did go on a great run, 13-3, like I said, to tie it up, but they never led in the game. They never really looked like they had a chance to win. And I even said, cue the ambulance, because this team gives me a heart attack every time I watch them. It's just heartbreaking loss after heartbreaking loss. They find a way to lose when there's really a way that they could win, but somehow or another, they always figure out the one way that there is to lose. The best thing that came out of the game today for men's basketball was the halftime performance by Shane Beamer. Introducing all the new guys. Aaron Nolan got a huge round of applause there at halftime. And Beamer said he was ready. Well, one of the fans said that Beamer had him ready to run through a wall. And then one of the very funny things that Beamer did after the game, during his media availability, someone asked him what he thought about his team being ranked in the too early top 25. And he said, man, it's a lot better than seeing your name at the top of those hot seat lists that come out. If that's not funny, I don't know what is. So these coaches, they try to tell you all the time, they're not paying attention. But they're definitely paying attention to what's said about them. They're paying attention to these way too early rankings. They're paying attention to the hot seat list. And don't let any one of them fool you otherwise. We all know Lane Kiffin stays on Twitter. That man can't put his phone down. Maybe that's why he's such a good recruiter. Jumping in them DMs. Anyways, back to basketball. Gamecock men, though, man, yeah, 75 turnovers, as Chuck says, in the last 4 games. You cannot win. Think about it. If you turned half of those, so we'll call it 37. I know it's 37 and a half. We'll call it 37. But if you turn 37 of those into 2-pointers, guess what? That's as many points as you've had turnovers if you just cut it in half, possibly. Now, granted, we all know that the Gamecocks shoot a way below 50% clip from field goal range, so it might would stand to reason they would get 18 points out of those 37 turnovers. But when you lose in games by 3 points and 2 points and 1 point, 7-8 points starts to make a big difference. Just like in free throws. Free throw percentage, not good as a team. There's a couple of guys that shoot okay, but for the most part, not good. Not a good free throw percentage. Oh, what do you know? If you shoot, 7 of 14, you lose by 3, all of a sudden, those 4 free throws make a big difference if you can go 11 for 14. I mean, am I crazy? I'm not crazy, right? It's just the Gamecocks men's basketball team is so hard to watch. And by comparison, also this is what we like to call a segue in this business. In comparison, man, I'm just all happy giddy watching the women play. Man, it's just amazing. Go Gamecock women. Let's get another national title. As Kim Mulkey said in her press conference, she has no idea how Dawn Staley has 10 McDonald's All-Americans on her team and keeps them all happy. Maybe the men's team should try to get a few McDonald's All-Americans on their team. Heck, at this point, hey, Dawn, can we maybe just get a few of your girls to play on the men's team? I can't say they'd play any worse, and I bet you they might make a few more shots than some of these dudes. That's an interesting question. Would the Gamecock women beat the men right now? Everybody wants to say, no, the women couldn't possibly win because they're women, but I'm telling y'all, we've seen 16 seeds beat 1 seeds all the time in men's basketball. I don't think it's too far to reason that in a certain game, a certain day, the Gamecock women wouldn't have more than a, 10 or 15%, 20% chance to win the game. So that's 1 out of 10, 1 out of 8, 1 out of 5. What do y'all think? Could the Gamecock women beat the men? Because they've won 69 straight at home in a row. Got their 17th straight over LSU, 5th straight over Miss Kim Mulkey, whom I just mentioned, asking for a few of Dawn's McDonald All-Americans. Hey, maybe just offer them some NIL after the season, Kim. That's what everybody else does. Jeremiah Smith's been offered $4.5 million to enter the transfer portal, apparently. So just wait till after the season. You can just go offer them whatever you want. NIL, you won't get in trouble for tampering or none of it. You won't get in trouble with any of it. Mark says he never understands how the Gamecocks men don't shoot good free throws. As went back to Frank Martin's teams. I know exactly. That's what led my question. I think they're practicing with the wrong ball. I swear. You just can't shoot that bad. I heard that this team, literally somebody on the radio just the other day, 2 days ago, said that the South Carolina men's basketball team had talent. Doesn't talent include making the basketball into the hoop? Isn't that the most important talent to have? Getting the ball through the rim, through the net? Also, I will say this. There is no reason for there to ever be offensive goaltending. It's their goal. Who cares if Nick Pringle did the layup and the ball bounced off and he tipped it back in? Who cares? It was his shot. It's his rim. I think that's the dumbest rule ever. Offensive goaltending. I don't think that's what they called it. I forget exactly the term they called it. Gamecock Chuck will probably help me out there. Historically, the women's team doesn't shoot good from the free throw line either. That's, fair. But their free throws don't cost them losses. That's what I would say there. Their free throws don't cost them losses. Sometimes now their field goal percentage or their three-point percentage might cost them a loss. But they're far and few between. And I'm not saying either. Don't get me confused, y'all. Brian just logged back in, y'all. Give me a minute. If y'all can't hear me, make sure to let me know. And now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that the men's team should have the type dominance that the women's team does. But they were just on the uptick last year. Lamont Paris did a whole lot more with less last year. I don't understand why that can't be the same thing this year. Like, it's just the heartbreaking way they lose is crazy. Basket interference is what they would call it. Yeah, so it was something like that. That should never happen on an offensive player, though, on his offensive shot, in my opinion. Pensman, let me know. Volume's still good. All right, cool. We'll see what happens here in a minute. But y'all, that Gamecock women, I don't know. Could they beat the men? Beamer, with his hilarious statement, he said being in the way too early top 25 is much better than being on the hot seat list. What do you guys think about that? Gamecocks women, 69 straight at home, ties the record. And like I said, I'm just very happy watching the women, getting heart palpitations when I watch the men. I do believe in Lamont. He will get it right. Let's see what we're going to get to next. All right, I'll tell you guys what. Let's go to hiring a new coach. Like I said, I'm not ready to get rid of Lamont yet, but let's go to someone that got hired today and fans are not happy about it. Cowboys fans. Man, them dudes so mad about Brian Schottenheimer getting the hire for the Cowboys. And honestly, it shocked me. Where did this come from? I mean, was this always the plan, given how late you let go of Mike McCarthy, possibly? Maybe. Was it that you were just ill prepared and this was the last possible guy you could hire? Because the only team that hasn't hired anyone yet is the Saints. You got the Jaguars already hired someone new, the Raiders, the Jets, the Bears. I'm sure I'm forgetting some, but all of these teams now have new head coaches. Meanwhile, Jerry back there doing what Jerry does. And so did he get another yes man? How bad do these fans have it? I saw a Cowboys fan today. This one's good. A Cowboys fan wrote to Panthers fans and asked if he could come to our side. And we all know the owner that David Tepper is. Holy Christ. You want to change over from the Cowboys to the Panthers? We've made an NFC championship appearance since the Cowboys have. I mean, we do have that going for us. But this fan on Twitter today literally wrote, Panthers fans, can I join you? Wrote out a heartfelt message about it. That was hilarious. Yeah, Patriots is one I missed. Mark says that's hilarious. And we've got Chuck. I'm to the point with the men's team that I'm not stressed out. I believe we will not win an SEC game this year. Dude, Chuck, I know we're going to go right back to the NFL, but let me address this comment. Chuck, I literally had this as an overreaction trying to reverse psychology the Gamecock men to a win. I said it like 2 weeks ago. I was like, I don't know if they'll win an SEC game. But I was joking. And I said it the other night on the show, dude. I was joking. I was hoping to sometimes with the football team, if I expect to lose, we win. If I expect to win, we lose. I tried my reverse psychology on this basketball team, man, and it didn't work. It didn't work. Oh, man, I know that's stressful. Mark, they literally promoted their OC from their team that literally ranks 17th in the league. So, Mark, he doesn't think it's too bad of a hire. At least he's not a retread. That would be my thing. But, I mean, he could have had Bill Belichick last year. If he would have gotten on the ball earlier, probably could have had Pete Carroll. I don't know, Ron Rivera maybe for the Cowboys, for a bridge guy. Maybe, something like that. But, yeah, the NFL, it just continues to be drama. It will always dominate the headlines one way or another. But the Cowboys, they're not happy with Schottenheimer. Here we go, Chuck. You know what would make a Cowboys fan year is if the Philly or Washington wins the Super Bowl. One of them very well could. I want the Commanders, and that's exactly what we're about to talk about now. So perfect segue there, Chuck. Appreciate you, my man. Yes, my dog is my co-host tonight. Oh, Mark said he thinks it's a terrible hire. Oh, okay. I got you. So let's go back to Mark's comment. They literally promoted their offensive coordinator from their team that literally ranks 17th in the league. I thought you were saying that as it was a good thing. I understand now. It's not a good thing. No. If I was a Cowboys fan, I would be very upset. Mark, he thinks it's a terrible hire. And then, yep, like I said, perfect segue right here. I think we're into the entrees, though, on Southern Fried Sports, if I forgot to mention that. I gave you the appetizers. That was the Gamecock basketball stuff. We're going to do the NFL stuff. We're going to take a little break. And then I have someone that we're going to bring on that participates with the show. Like I tell you guys all the time, if you hit like, subscribe, you can interact with me on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube, whatever the case is. Drop a comment. You might just find yourself on the show, like this guy's going to do when we bring up the open segment for the fans here in a little bit. But let's get through the NFL talk. You know what would make a Cowboys fan year is if Philly or Washington wins the Super Bowl. And that's exactly what I want to talk about. We talked about the Cowboys hire, the other coaching hires, but we have the AFC and NFC championship games coming up this week. I want it to be the Commanders and the Bills. I don't think that's going to happen because you can want in one hand and poop in the other, and I bet you the one you poop in will fill up faster. So you can want, you can wish, whatever. I do believe it will end up being the Chiefs and the Eagles in the Super Bowl. Those are my official picks. I do believe that the Eagles are going to get Jalen Hurts going, throwing the ball. Hopefully his knee injury isn't too bad. But if Washington doesn't line up to try to stop Saquon Barkley, it's going to be a long game. If Saquon Barkley has more than one rush of 30 yards, he's probably going to get another one. So that's going to be the key. They're going to have to put 8 people in the box, 7, 8 people in the box. They're going to have to play it inside out. I don't know if they have the defense to do so. I think Jaden Daniels will score, but I think the one key factor might be Jalen Hurts. It might be that knee. So if the Commanders have any hope in the world, it's to load the box and make Jalen Hurts beat you with his arm. And if he can, the Eagles will make it to the Super Bowl. But if Jalen Hurts can't, if he has another one of those 180-yard games, because I don't think you can let either one of those guys beat you rushing. Therefore, I'm 7 in the box at least, and I got another safety probably walking down. I'm going to try to keep everything within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage. If they beat me deep on a couple of passes for 20 yards, I might back it off at that point. But yeah, if I'm the Commanders, I am stuffing the line of scrimmage. Scott says, you don't just play the Chiefs, you play the refs and the Swifties. Well, let's be honest, though. The Swifties don't have anything to do with it. I mean, the Swifties aren't making the Chiefs win the game. Now, the refs might be helping them out a little bit. I saw a stat the other day. They're literally like 21st in yards and penalties. But like I said, the big key is when the Chiefs get penalized, it doesn't give teams first downs. When the Chiefs have penalties against them, it always seems to be in a very critical moment and give them a first down. And I'm no conspiracy theorist, but something doesn't add up. And so, yeah, with the Chiefs and the Bills, I want Bills to win. Literally, there's a fan who wrote a letter to Josh Allen, said, Josh Allen, can you please beat the Chiefs? Signed literally everyone, everywhere. So please, Josh Allen, beat the Chiefs. Please. You already did it once in the regular season, so we know you can do it. We know it's possible. Anything's possible if you only believe. But at the end of the day, I don't. Chiefs, they just turn it to a different level when they're in the playoffs. You got Spags calling their defense. Josh Allen will give a superhuman effort and probably still lose this game. We got Chuck prediction. Washington wins 31-27. I'd be okay with it. And especially, hey, did y'all see what Dan Snyder said? Dan Snyder said he is so unhappy about the success that they're having as a team. His first year being away, being sold, he had to sell it, and he's so not happy to see them having success. Please, Washington, win just for that. We all hate Dan Snyder. Mark says, don't forget, Barkley is a threat catching the ball. Loading the box up opens Barkley to have a big game receiving. Yeah, true. But like I said, man, you load him in the box and you play inside out. So, yeah, if you see Barkley start spraying, I mean, 2 players dedicated to Barkley and Hurts all game. Basically spies. I don't care. Whatever you want to call them. But man-to-man coverage, Barkley needs to be locked down. Somebody needs to have eyes on him the entire time, obviously. And then Jalen, I'm not letting him beat me running because I don't think he can beat me passing. I am keeping Jalen Hurts in the pocket as much as possible. Mark says Eagles will win 28-24. Brian, we'll get to you in a minute. Save it. We'll do it on your segment. Brian says he's got a comment on the refs. Save it up. We'll double it up whenever you come on. And Gamecock Chuck. Dan Snyder ruined the Redskins. I agree. Pinsman, 35-28 Commanders, 28-21 Bills. Man, you just sucking up because that's who I said I wanted to see. So you picking both the teams I want to see. No, I'm just kidding. I know you really probably believe that those are the teams that'll play for it. I hope so. I want to see new teams. Nobody likes to see somebody win all the time. We like to see parity. We like to see competition. We like to see drama. And there's nothing more drama-filled than close football games, close basketball games, and everything in between, as we've talked about in our first two topics. College basketball over the NBA, football over everything. It's like reality TV. All right, y'all. Listen, we're going to reset. I told you we got a guest coming up. I told you I got an open segment tonight for fans. So, Pinsman, Chuck, Mark, all of you guys, if you have any sports take, any comment that hasn't been talked about, or that you need to get off your chest, send it in now. We're going to bring on someone because I've got a very important question about Clemson basketball. Pinsman says, get new teams in the Super Bowl, and he is also tired of the Eagles and the Chiefs. And with that said, we're going to reset, y'all. Thank you for being here. We'll be right back. Alrighty, and we are back, ladies and gentlemen. And so, as I've told you guys before, if you interact with the show, if you hit like, subscribe, follow, reach out to me on X or Facebook or YouTube, you can come on the show. And so I put out a thing today, an open segment. And Mr. Brian Pettit opened up to the call. And he just said he had a comment about the refs. Hopefully y'all can still hear everything okay. Let me know if you can't. And so we literally said today, though, open segment, y'all can bring your questions, your takes. And Brian says he has one about Clemson not being ranked.
My thing is about Clemson not being ranked. Look who they lost to. I mean, forget they lost to Mississippi. They lost to Memphis. They lost to South Carolina. They lost to Louisville, and they lost another one. But I mean, you got to think they're in those quads, which I really do hate about the quads and everything. And I just think that's why they're not ranked. They should be ranked. The ranking's coming out soon, and we'll see what happens. You know, they've lost 4, but I think they'll be ranked in this next coming week.
They should be.
If they do.
The other loss that they called was to Boise State.
Yeah. So it depends. I mean, right now they're sitting at like 7th or 8th in that division, wherever they're sitting now. But I mean, they only got like 2 more months, and then we'll know where everybody sees. This is a waiting game. You know, you just can't. But they should be ranked. I don't know why, but they were ranked a couple of weeks ago, but now they're not. So it's just a wonder what everybody's thinking, you know.
Right. Well, I mean, it's not like they're having close losses here to some of these teams. I mean, when you look at it, they just beat Virginia Tech 72-57, Syracuse 86-72. They went to overtime with Pittsburgh, escaped 78-75. But then I'm looking, Georgia Tech, 11-point win. Florida State, 20-point win. Louisville, 10-point loss. California, 12-point win. Stanford, 14-point win. To the two losses they also caught were to Memphis and South Carolina, so that's 2 overtime losses. They got blew out by Boise State. Those losses, though, those overtime losses and a 10-point loss to Louisville does not equate into a 19-4 team being unranked, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you got to think about this. I mean, the biggest test is going to be when they play Duke in a couple weeks. So that's really where they're going to be tested out, is in when the Duke game in a couple weeks at Littlejohn. So that's really going to be the test, and so we'll see where they settle there. You know, I mean, that would be a big game if Clemson wins, but I don't think they do. I think they'll lose by 10 on that one. But if they do win, that'd be a shocker in the whole entire thing. Look what look what North Carolina did today. They actually won. So, you know, it's kind of a win-win-win. And Wake Forest almost beat Duke today. So, I mean, it is basketball, so it all end out, you know, when it all comes out.
Right. Well, I mean, I don't know if this schedule that I'm looking at shows any of these teams ranking at the time. Currently, none of the teams they've beaten or lost to were ranked. So, I mean, maybe that has a little bit to do with it, possibly. But they're very favorable coming up at NC State versus Georgia Tech, and then big matchup with Duke. I think they can beat UNC. UNC, obviously not what they were before. Still pretty good record. Still very good team, obviously, but it's not the UNC of old. Cooper Flagg, though, for Duke. Oof, that dude's crazy.
Yeah, he's good.
But yeah, at the end of the day, I really, really do not get how this team is not ranked. I mean, 19-4. I mean, maybe if you look at their out-of-conference schedule, it was a bit weak. But I mean, I'm sure there's other teams, if I were to look it up, that are ranked that have a worse record than 19-4.
Yeah. But, I mean, you got a lot of things going on between now and March.
Right, absolutely. Okay, well, yeah, speaking of March, here, since I got you here, Brian Pensman, he wants to know, who will be the Final Four in college basketball? I'll let you go first, and I'll go after you.
I think it'd be Duke and probably Kansas, Kentucky, and I'm going to say, I don't know. Don't know who to be the fourth, but that's my top three right now. I haven't even looked at the ratings in a while.
Right. Yeah, no, I would go. So, yeah, that's just a random question off the top of our head. I would go Auburn, Duke. There's going to be some random team that gets in there somewhere. Maybe like a Big East school. Connecticut, obviously, might maybe get there. I don't trust Kansas. They'll win a couple of games in the tournament. I don't know if they'll be in the Final Four. But as deep as the SEC is, it wouldn't shock me one bit if there's 2 SEC teams in the top 4 at the end of the year, to be honest with you there, Pensman, on that question. And then Chuck says, Duke, Auburn, Kansas, Houston. That's literally about the 4, I would say, other than the one game I just watched against Kansas.
Yeah, Houston. I agree with Chuck too.
Yeah, Kansas, Houston, considering the way those guys just played, I don't know if both of them will make it to the 4. Just by how equal they played. I mean, both of them kind of look beatable a little bit. But, I mean, even then, you've got Ole Miss and Mississippi State. You've got Texas A&M. You've got Texas. You've got Auburn and Tennessee and Kentucky and Florida. Literally, there's projected to be 13 of 16 SEC teams projected into the round of 64. Nice. Is that not wild, Brian?
Oh, yeah, it's totally wild. It's going to be a crazy year just like it was in football. You never know who's going to win. I mean, look at the playoffs. None of the 4 teams, the top 4, won the championship this year. A 6-7 went. So whoever, and you got to forget, how about Gonzaga? I mean, you never know who's going to jump up at that number 9, 10. You never know, but that first week is going to be crazy anyway because you're going to have a lot of upsets in that first couple of weeks.
I saw this the other day, Chuck. Tennessee, by the way, has never made a Final Four. I literally just saw that the other day.
That's crazy.
Could it be their year? Maybe it is. It's wild. And 20 years of college basketball or whatever it is, or 84 years. I don't remember the exact stat, but never made a Final Four. And Chuck, to the Houston, Kansas thing, it all depends on the seeding. Yes, very true. And we never know what these teams will be seeded. We've seen it go crazy before sometime. All right, so Brian, I got one more question for you, and I'm going to let you go. I'm going to do some NASCAR when you get off, and then I'm going to sign off. We're approaching.
Okay, well, I got one thing to say here.
Yeah, about the refs. You wanted to bring up the refs.
I got one thing to say about the – well, I'm going to bring up the injuries. The Bills, the only thing is Rapp is out with a back hip, and there's questionables. This was just reported for today, for Friday, but this probably will end tomorrow because they haven't gave it out yet. Christian Benford, it will be concussion and out, not injury-related, personal matters. So he's out for the game, and this is for the Bills. And Bailey Spencer is out. He's got a calf injury. There's nothing really injury reported by the Kansas City, the Chiefs. Washington has Samuel Camille with a knee injury. Jeff Driscoll illness, and that's about it for their out for the game. And that's it for pretty much of injury-wise for the whole entire week. So that was just the injury report that I got a while ago. All right, I don't know if anybody's heard this. And, JD, I don't know if you heard this either. There's two kind of things here. Did you hear about the Dallas Cowboys? And this is kind of related. This is kind of there, and then I'll hit the refs here. Did you hear about this? Jerry Jones tours are handled to be Cowboy Super Bowl. Did you hear about that? Where they're actually doing a 24/7, like bringing in people doing tours during like on weeks. Did you hear about that or not?
Yeah, I've seen something about it, and I'll give you my one take on it. To me, he's parading his players around like it's a zoo. He's got all these people walking around watching them work out and sitting. Obviously they're not going into the meeting rooms or anything, but basically they're just going around, and it's like looking at animals in a zoo, but it's professional football players of a professional football team. And so, yeah, that's one of the more ludicrous stories I've ever heard out of the NFL.
Okay, now to the referees here. I heard something this week. This is the Bills against the Chiefs referees in the AFC Championship game, and I just found it. Okay, Clint Blackman. I don't know if I said it. CLETE Blackman. He'll be the head referee. Blackman's crew refereed one Bills game in the regular season and 0 Chiefs game. In Week 17, game between the Buffalo Bills and the Jets, there were 23 penalties, including 7 on the Bills. Okay? This was his stat. Blackman has his team officiating 16 games in 2024. Top 5 penalties referee handed out for false starts for 45 times, offensive holding 42 times, necessary roughness 23, defensive pass interference 18 times, and defensive holding 15 times. And then it says down here who will be the referees: Clint Blackman, Scott Campbell, Dan Himzak, and a couple other ones they just mentioned. But here's the crazy stat. Mahomes, with him being a head referee, Patrick Mahomes is a 6-5 record officiating, and his second worst recording against special referees. Is that not crazy?
Well, I'll tell you what the NFL is trying to do. They're obviously trying to hide the fact that the NFL refs have helped the Chiefs. Who better to do that than someone that has a bit of a record of not, because there was one dude I saw, I think it was last week, that's called a Chiefs game. There's one dude that the Chiefs are undefeated with him as the referee. And so obviously the NFL is trying to get out in front of this whole story, this whole conspiracy. Like, it's just weird. I mean, obviously we'll never be able to prove anything. We'll never know in a million years if the NFL really favored the Chiefs or if the refs favored the Chiefs. But I'll tell you what I don't believe. And I said it the other day on a YouTube short. Y'all can go back and watch it if you don't believe me. But I said that I did not believe a single word that Patrick Mahomes said in that interview when he was asked about the referees. He said he thinks they're calling the game as fairly as possible and this, that, and the third. And then there was a clip of him and Josh Allen that came back up recently where Mahomes was complaining about a call. And he was like, that's bullcrap, blah, 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 blah. But it's not very often you see that happen with Mahomes. He never complains about the refs because bad calls don't get made against him and his team. For whatever reason, maybe they just don't make mistakes. Maybe they're perfect. But we saw it with their offensive line last year. They can line up further back off of the line of scrimmage than any other team can on the offensive line without being called for an illegal alignment. You can see that right tackle false start numerous times and never be called for a false start when it's the Chiefs. So, I mean, there is something to this, but we will never know what it is. We still got you there, Brian? All right. Well, Brian, man, thanks for joining me. We'll never understand how Clemson was ranked. I've got a few more topics I'm going to get to. I can't hear Brian. I don't know if he's not talking or anything. But I'm going to go ahead before my volume messes up again. We're going to put him backstage. Hopefully everything's good. Hopefully y'all can still hear me okay. Let me know if you can't. But yeah, Chuck, he agrees. Bingo, JD. We'll never know. And the one dude on the radio today too, he said, we'll never really know because there's no way you can keep this many conspiracy people. Like, if there's this many people involved, there is no way you can keep it quiet. In the age of social media and everything else, John Gruden's emails got leaked. Of course, there would be a leak that came down if it were ever emailed from Roger Goodell or an NFL office about favoring the Chiefs. However, I do not believe for 1 minute that there aren't a way to back channel communications. We've all seen crime movies. We've all seen CIA stuff. We've seen burner cell phones. We've seen people spoofing their internet. So there's something, but they're daggum good at covering up. That's what money will do for you. Money can cover up anything. But with all of that said, it's been a fantastic episode of Southern Fried Sports so far. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, follow. Hit me on X, hit me on YouTube. You could find yourself co-hosting a segment. Who knows? I have 2 more things to get to. We're going to segue into them really nicely. The first one is Danny Cannell. I posted this on my X earlier. This man recorded a video while driving down the interstate. And in first comment to someone, he said he was not driving. In second comment to me, when I said it sure looks like a steering wheel in front of you, he replied, I was using autopilot. So which one was it? Were you not driving? Or were you sitting in the driver's seat and using autopilot? Because either way, it's unsafe. You won't ever catch me trying to record a video driving down the road unless it's of me literally just driving down the road and I'm not talking to the camera. But this guy, he decided he was going to put out a whole NIL take while driving down the interstate. And like I said, one comment, he said he wasn't driving. Second comment, he told me he was using autopilot. So that don't make no sense. So either you weren't driving, or B, you were sitting in the driver's seat and using autopilot while you recorded a video that could have waited. Shut up, Chuck. Don't tell me that. That's bad, man. Distracted driving kills people. And people want to be like, well, why should I care if he's driving and recording a video? Exactly to that point. Would you care about the young teenage driver behind you texting and driving and rear ends you and your family and hurts kids? Or hurts you? Or hurts someone else? Would you be mad about it at that point? What about somebody doing their makeup? What about somebody eating their food and drops their sauce pack and tries to pick it up? Just don't drive distracted is the moral of the story. But either, look, if you were using autopilot, hopefully that AI is smarter than most AI and can actually do its job if you were going to rear end somebody while you record your NIL video. Just wait till you get home. Pull over. I'm sure there's rest areas or an off-ramp. But you were 100% driving. I don't care if it was autopilot or not, Danny Cannell. And so speaking of driving, that is the final segment of tonight. Going into NASCAR, talking about driving around a track. We've got the 24-hour of Daytona coming up soon. And then I really wanted to talk about some of the drivers we have that are going to make a return or their first appearance to the sport this year. How about Helio Castro-Neves? IndyCar champion, F1 champion, great driver. He is going to attempt to qualify for the Daytona 500. He will be running in the ARCA Menards series. And NASCAR, granted, they don't get much exposure, but they do a good job of it, marketing their drivers. And especially when guys like this are going to run the race. Think about Juan Pablo Montoya, Marcos Ambrose. A few of those guys, they won races in NASCAR. They were good drivers. And NASCAR's always done well promoting. Now, a lot of people may not like NASCAR because of the reduced horsepower and the racing these days. But the drivers are always there. And speaking of Daytona 500 and driving, Martin Truex Jr., who just retired, he's going to be retired for all of 0 races, ladies and gentlemen, because he will attempt to run the Daytona 500. I don't get it, man. Bro, you just wanted to retire, and you're going to come back and race 2 months later? Come on, man. Come on. At least maybe take a year off and then come back and try to run it. You didn't fully want to retire if that's the case, in my opinion. I think you wanted to keep running. And then here's one. This is a throwback, y'all. This is a throwback NASCAR guy. Casey Kane. Casey Kane is going to race in the Xfinity Series at Rockingham. We very well might be there at the race. Possibly. We will see. Tiger Stripes Media says that was great. Gamecock Chuck says he lets Jesus have the wheel. Hey, that's what a lot of these NASCAR drivers do nowadays. Man, you see these guys go into a spin, hands off the wheel right here. They've sprained their wrist by trying to hold the wheel. No, they've been trained now. Hands here. You're just along for the ride at that point. P digits. Chuck is unsafe. Thanks, P digits. Appreciate you backing me up on that one. I just try to fit in with the other North Carolina drivers, Chuck says. I did hear Gamecock Chuck's middle name is Danger. Well, hey, you know what? The D in JD does not stand for danger. So don't record videos while driving down the road. Don't drink and drive. Be kind to one another. Always tune in to Southern Fried Sports. Y'all be blessed, not stressed. And I think that wraps up our coverage for this evening. We'll see y'all again Monday.